Welcome back to Ohio School Threat Assessment Training. I'm Kyle Anderson.
And I'm Holly Hollingsworth. In the previous 8 installments of this training video, we've explored the steps to establish a comprehensive targeted violence prevention plan. Recapping, those steps were: 1. Establish a multidisciplinary threat assessment team. 2. Define prohibited and concerning behaviors. 3. Create a central reporting mechanism. 4. Determine the threshold for law enforcement intervention. 5. Establish assessment procedures. 6. Develop risk management options. 7. Create and promote safe school climates. And 8. Conduct training for all stakeholders.
Those 8 steps come from the U.S. Secret Service operational guide titled Enhancing School Safety Using a Threat Assessment Model. That Secret Service guide was published in 2018, and as we outlined for you in our introduction video, it is one of the key information sources these training videos are based upon. To conclude your Ohio School Threat Assessment Training, we would like to update you about additional helpful information published by the Secret Service in 2019. It focuses on applying threat assessment in a K-12 setting. For that, we're joined by Mark Porter, the Director of Law Enforcement Operations at the Ohio Attorney General's Office.
In March of 2017, I retired as the agent in charge of the United States Secret Service's Protective Intelligence and Assessment Division. In the course of my 26 years with the Secret Service, I spent 7 of those years in the Intelligence Division conducting and supervising numerous threat assessment investigations. As we mentioned earlier in our video, this training has been compiled using 2 national proven best practices: Dr. Dewey Cornell's Comprehensive School Threat Assessment Guide and the U.S. Secret Service's National Threat Assessment Center Enhancing Guide for School Safety. However, I want to make the audience aware of a third resource, a report recently issued by the U.S. Secret Service, the National Threat Assessment Center, in November of 2019. That title is Protecting America's Schools. It's a U.S. Secret Service analysis of targeted school violence. Well, in this study that the National Threat Assessment Center just put out, they studied 41 different case studies of targeted school violence in the United States from 2008 to 2017. And this report builds on 20 years of the center's research and guidance in the threat assessment arena. The findings in the report underscore the importance of establishing a targeted violence protection plan within your threat assessment teams at your local schools. This report has 10 key findings. There is no profile of a student attacker, nor is there a profile for the type of school that has been targeted. Attackers usually had multiple motives, the most common involving grievance with classmates. Most attackers used firearms, and those firearms were acquired from the home. Most attackers had experienced psychological, behavioral, and developmental symptoms. Half of the attackers had interest in violent topics. All attackers experienced social stressors involving their relationship with peers or maybe romantic partners. Nearly every attacker experienced negative home life stressors. Most attackers were victims of bullying. Most attackers had a history of school disciplinary actions, and many had prior contact with law enforcement. And most important, all attackers exhibited concerning behaviors. Well, threat assessment is the best practice for preventing targeted violence. The goal of threat assessment is, in a school setting, is you want to identify those students of concern. You want to assess their risk for engaging in violence or harmful activities, and you want to deliver intervention strategies to mitigate that risk. Now, besides taking this training, school resource officers are in an ideal position to review these publications and share this information with other members on the threat assessment team. In fact, they should share it with school staff, their school board members, as well as parents. The idea is to help the full community understand what threat assessment is and how it works.
The assessment process should not be burdensome to the threat assessment team. It should be an efficient process that quickly resolves transient cases and puts most of their resources toward the more substantive cases. For final thoughts on the usefulness of threat assessment protocols in the prevention of violence, we turn to Max Schachter, the parent of a boy killed in the Parkland, Florida school shooting in 2018, and to Ohio's Superintendent of Public Instruction, Paulo DeMaria.
I mean, when you think about it, the children of this state are our most precious possession and asset. And so, you know, as parents, as community members, we will do whatever it takes to make sure they're protected, because ultimately they're our future, and we want to create the conditions for them to be successful. And part of that is ensuring their safety. And so, you know, we see things happening, you know, in Ohio and across the country, and it causes us to take stock and to be thoughtful about the conditions in which our students learn. The important thing, you know, we talk about safety many times in regard to creating structures that protect our children, but it's really prevention, right, and early identification that is going to be the most successful approach. And I think that's why, you know, so much of the work that we're seeing is in that space. You know, threat assessment is right up that alley of prevention and early identification, because not only is it about the safety of the students, you know, as a whole, it's also about the needs of an individual child, right? Here's a child who might be going through difficulties that we see as potentially posing a threat, but that means that child needs help, and that puts us in a position of being supportive and helpful to that child and meeting their needs to, again, lead to their individual success.
It shows to me that Ohio cares. Ohio is prioritizing the safety and security of its students and its teachers by doing this. We know that threat assessments work. After Virginia Tech, Virginia instituted threat assessments in the entire state. They haven't had a school shooting since. After the Parkland shooting, we did the exact same thing, and it speaks volumes to everybody that's watching this video and that is taking the time out of their day to learn about threat assessments, how much they care, and I know that I appreciate it, and every parent in the state of Ohio will be eternally grateful and know that they're doing everything they can to save lives and prevent this from happening in their district. So if there are any school administrators that are watching this, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. It tells me and every Ohioan that you care and you're prioritizing the safety and security of your students and your staff. I know that if you're watching this, you understand that if children do not come home and staff doesn't come home to their families every day after school, nothing else matters.
A reminder for viewers who are certified law enforcement personnel here in Ohio, please also watch the additional chapter in the video series, Guide to Ohio School Vulnerability Assessments.
That video provides insights about areas in the physical school building that deserve special review for possible vulnerabilities. We leave you now with a final word from Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost.
I want to say thank you for doing this training. What you've learned in this series of videos has given you the tools you can use to improve the safety and health of your schools, your community. We're living through a time of extraordinary change, extraordinary stress. But I don't have to tell you that. Our kids are not immune to the stress either, and a few are being pushed into a very dark place. We must not abandon them to the darkness, because we've seen how it can reach out to engulf the rest of us. We've got to pull them back into the light for their sake and for our own. By rescuing them, we can protect ourselves, our children, our communities. Few people get the opportunity to be a hero. Few have a chance to carry somebody from the burning building or to stop it from burning in the first place. If you can reach out with love and help for one troubled child, you are a hero. If you can stop a tragedy in the making, you're a hero. This is the time to build a team of heroes for your school district, your community. Let's get to work.